Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Base live event. I am Liz Prue, VP of Marketing here at Base, and I am joined by our guest of honor, Jeremy Wight, co-founder and VP of Product at Base. What's up, Jeremy?
Hello.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
Happy New Year. Thanks for leading our second Base Live event of the new year.
My power is still up, unlike the last time we did one of these when I had a power outage 10 minutes before we did it. So this is even better than the last time.
I forgot about that. You had to save your battery, but you made it.
I made it. Yeah, you had 5 minutes left. Yeah.
I love it. Well, today, everyone, we are talking the future of effective communication in 2021. And I'm excited for this because at yesterday's Base Live event with Jeremy Burrows, Game-Changing Questions to Ask Your Executive, we covered how to engage with your exec on topics like goal alignment, asking for a raise, establishing a regular and consistent communication cadence, how to ask for feedback, and so much more. And then throughout our discussion yesterday, several of you asked how to establish regular communication practices that set both you and your executive or executives, if you support multiple, up for success. And through those discussions, a lot of you were asking about Decision Stream, which we anticipated. So that's why we decided to have this event right after Jeremy Burrows yesterday. So today, Jeremy Wight is going to address some of the most talked about use cases from yesterday's session and show you how you can implement those winning strategies today using Decision Stream. And additionally, something that came up yesterday around calendar audits. How do you do these? Where do you even start? And was it the first feature Base had? Am I saying this correctly?
Yes, it actually was. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Analyze. So for those of you that have been in Base before, you've probably seen Analyze. Jeremy is going to touch on that today because that was such a hot topic yesterday. So I'm going to kick it off to Jeremy. I'll be here running the chat. Make sure it'll be like several of the other live demos that Jeremy's done before, where we're going to engage with you with the chat, answer any and all questions that you have. But I'll steal your first topic, Jeremy, and let everyone know if you are not signed up for Base, go ahead and do so right now at app.basehq.com. And that way you can follow along and ask questions as you're playing around with the platform. Or if you do have Base, go ahead and log in. We'll give you guys a couple minutes to do that, and I'll drop that app.basehq.com here. I'll have that pop up so you guys have that. But yeah, log in or sign up so that way you can play around while we do this. But Jeremy, I'll kick it off to you and monitor the chat. Again, guys, ask questions throughout this. This is your time with Mr. Wight to ask him any and all questions.
Awesome. Well, actually, before I dive into the kind of some of the product stuff, I did want to hit on a couple of the things that Jeremy shared yesterday, because I thought a lot of the points he made were really, really valuable, not just for assistants, but for anyone who is in a job and in a role. But I think even more so with in an assistant and executive relationship. One of those things that he shared that I thought was really insightful was establishing consistent communication patterns. And he didn't, I don't recall him putting it exactly this way, but one of the things I kind of heard and I understood from what he was saying was come prepared to your one-on-ones or whatever methods of communication you're having with your executive. And I will just say, I think that I've been managing people for a very long time. And that is probably one of the number one things that I would say helps put people on a great trajectory is when people take ownership of those. And a lot of what he was talking about was related to that, right? And now as I begin to dive into some of the product stuff, one of the things that he talked about that I just thought was so awesome was, I think it was last job or one of his previous roles, he discovered through feedback, right, through asking that hard question of, what should I stop doing or what frustrates you, I think was the way he put it in this question. And it was, the response was, well, when you kind of ping me throughout the week with different questions instead of sending me like one group or setting aside a time. That pulls me out of my flow or out of my focus area, which is totally accurate.
Mm-hmm.
And one, he got that by asking a tough question, coming prepared to his one-on-one. But then he's taken and the learnings he got from that was, I'm going to batch, right? I'm essentially going to batch all of the non-urgent into one flow, one stream, and then going to, curate those for my executives so that we can get the answers all at once. And I think that does two things. One, it creates a consistent pathway for communication, recognizing for the executive, right? Like creating that structure and that habit so that they understand this is how we're going to normally communicate in these types of situations.
Mm-hmm.
And as well as for the assistant, right? Like knowing that, hey, at this time, I'm going to get those answered. And that really flows really well into one of the things that we have that exists within Base that we have seen be so helpful. I won't call out the user's name, but there is a user that shared a quote. We get testimonials like this all the time, but just this past week that said I sent my executive a decision stream, and then they followed up with some answers and other things in Microsoft Teams, and was like, essentially like, how are you reading my mind? And that was because she got all the information in that decision stream, and she said she had been waiting for those questions for weeks, waiting for answers to those questions for weeks, and got them instantly in decision stream. And so again, I'm so excited when I hear those sorts of things. So if you're not familiar with decision stream, that's actually where we're going to start. So if you have pulled up the application in Base, and there is a free plan that you'll be able to, if you haven't signed up before, you can come and check out exactly what we're talking about. So over here on the left sidebar, you see decision stream, and that's where I've got loaded up right now. So this is one of my my kind of demo accounts, and I'll kind of walk you through what you're seeing here first before I dive into how to use this. So over here is the draft column. For any questions that you have drafted, the first time you come into the application, we're going to give you some example questions, and I'll walk through those in a couple of minutes, but you'll see some there that you can leverage to kind of get a better understanding of how to begin. These are any questions that you have shared with your executive that are waiting response, and they have status of either haven't been viewed and skipped, or skipped. And then finally, you have answered over here on the right, and you can see these are the answers, the responses that have been given, and any additional context that was left. So in this case, this was a yes, no, other type question. They responded yes and said thanks, right? So you've got one. It does a few things. This allows for you as the assistant to have a single place to kind of curate all of those things, instead of, oh, I've got questions and answers in SMS, in Slack or Microsoft Teams, in email, on a sticky pad, right? Like, I mean, I know that it's not going to be 100%, but this allows you to have a place to kind of curate those things, because typically what I have seen happen is when you're kind of doing those one-off pings, like Jeremy was talking about, was not helpful for his executive. It's because otherwise those things get dropped or lost, right? They'll get forgotten, and so you just send them, which makes a lot of sense. Except for it causes that difficulty for the executive. So by being able to drop those directly in here, and I'm actually going to show you how this connects to tasks. A lot of times, those questions are really like they start out as tasks, or their questions become a task. So we'll kind of look at how those work together here in a minute. But this creates a place for you as the assistant to curate all of those in one location, and then batch them to your executive, because that's typically a very effective way to do this. So that's what you're seeing here in these three columns: the draft column, the awaiting response, and the answered column. This can be used for all kinds of different things, right? Like here's a question that I got. This is an actual question that I got from my assistant This is a mentoring organization. I had led a discussion. It went really well. They asked me if I wanted to do another one, and you could see my answer was, ask me when we get closer, because I think there was like 3 weeks away, and I really couldn't think about it at that point. But she curated that answer for me, right? Like at that point, she gave me a few options that wasn't just yes, no, or other, because she thought ahead. And this is one of those things that makes Decision Stream so powerful, is not just the ability to get questions answered, but it actually allows you as the assistant to show that kind of looking around the corners, if you will. I think that's the way that Paige put it yesterday in the conversation that I thought was awesome, was just like, hey, great assistants, like they're kind of looking around the corner for me, and really helping me to be prepared. And when you curate the answers, most of the time, and Jeremy talked about this as well, right? Most of the time, if you just think about like the question from the executive's point of view, you're going to be able to either answer your own question, or you're going to have a pretty good idea of what the answer is, right? I think that this is the case for most assistants that have been working with their executive for a while. And so in some cases, you can't just press forward, right? You will have a question, but in those cases, if thinking about being much more strategic and forward thinking and showing that to the executive, one of those ways is by saying, hey, I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, but I'm not 100% positive, but here's the answers. And literally all you have to do as an executive is click the button. That makes it makes a magical experience for the executive. And also as the assistant, whenever my assistant does that for me really well, I just go, wow, she is really looking out for me. She's thinking ahead for me. Like she knows me. I feel seen as a person, as an executive, and it lowers the cognitive overhead. So I answer it much faster than if I have to type out an answer, because I don't have to do anything except for hit the button and say, thanks, that was great. That kind of thing. So I'm going to pause there just for a second, because I haven't been watching the chat or anything, Liz. So I don't know if you have any questions before I press forward.
Yes, and I'm going to try and answer your questions in these captions here too, guys. So that way we can give you some immediate answers too while Jeremy's going through the demo. A lot of folks have been asking how an executive gets a decision stream. So we dropped that in there. The link can be text, Slack, email, wherever they prefer to communicate. And Jeremy will walk through what that looks like too throughout today. Another question we got, excuse me, one of our Facebook users asked for tips on how you got your CEO to convert, or any executive that you support. And I think that's something that you touched on, Jeremy, and that what's great about Decision Stream is that it presents an opportunity to create that consistent cadence for both you and the executive.
Yeah, so let me, just so I don't forget all the questions you've raised, let me kind of answer the last couple. So first, yes, there are multiple ways to deliver the decision stream. You can just copy the link and drop it. So like, obviously we don't have an integration with everything, but we do have an integration with, at least in the US, you can text the link directly, or send it via Slack. You can also add it to a digest, which I'll get to in a second. Or you can just copy the link and then drop that into any format. So whether that's, we have some international users that use WhatsApp. It's possible we'll do an integration with WhatsApp in the future, but we don't yet. So you could drop that into WhatsApp or any other application that you could drop a link into. In terms of how to get your executive, I would say, comfortable and to convert to Decision Stream, I think one of the best ways to start with that is to start actually with a digest. And yesterday it was mentioned maybe once or twice about the 30-day challenge. And the 30-day challenge is a great way to start. And in the 30-day challenge, we have a 30-day challenge template. And one of the things in there is, talks about including questions that need answers, decision streams right here, questions to call out. So I would say a great way is to, when you're talking to your executive, using the 30 challenge, hey, we're going to I'm going to test this. And I can tell you that literally everyone who has done it and gone through this process has said it has made them, as an assistant, feel more strategic, more in alignment with their executive's goals. And every single executive that has answered has also said it has either made them more prepared, be able to focus more on strategic items, those sorts of things. It's all been positive feedback. So I highly recommend it. And this is a great way to say, hey, I'm going to add a decision stream here, right? And after you've clicked share, you can drop the decision stream directly in a digest. So I think that's a great way to start. For myself, the way that my assistant delivers decision stream is twofold. I get in my daily digest any questions that she has, and this works for me. This is one of those things. So she asked me, right? Like, what works well for you? For me, if she includes in my digest a decision stream link, 9 times out of 10, I will go into the decision streams and answer any of them that she has for me. Because again, I know, like, now I've kind of unblocked her to go and continue to do the things she needs to do to support me and our organization. And again, it's created that consistency without me getting pinged throughout the day. And then secondarily, there's a decision stream that she sends also. And that is a daily, at the end of the day, a daily check-in. And this was something that we found for us, I know this isn't for everyone, but worked really well. And that is, she wanted to understand how to better be in alignment with with like how things went throughout the day. And she was basically initially sending a question. We're fully remote. I know many people are now, but we have been since the beginning fully remote. And so she's not sitting next to me seeing what events I go to. And so she was having a hard time knowing how things progressed and if there were any action items that came out. I'm not super great. This is maybe a personal thing about taking tons of notes and then dropping to her. And so if she just asked me at the end of the day, how did all your events go? My answer always would be fine, right? Like, that was pretty much always, unless there was like a fire. And it wasn't giving her a lot of context. And so what she did is she created a decision stream question that, and this is actually one of the ones, if you haven't used the app before, this is one of the ones in our example. And that is, how did today go? And any action items or follow-up items for myself. And she literally just drops in my calendar events, and I can just go click, click, click. I did these 5, I missed these 2. Here's why, things went over in this, or the one-on-one, we got in a really deep conversation that was important, whatever. And because I have that all present, I'm able to give her a lot more context on how things went, and any action items she could have from me, so she knows how to better support me. Again, like, thinking ahead, being able to have that requires a lot of context, and so this is something that works really well for us. So I get them in the stream of questions in my digest, and then at the end of the day, and then at the end of the week, she'll also include how did you do on your OKRs this week.
And here, and I know, Jeremy, you'll show what the digest portion here too, but for those of you that have been asking in the chat too, what a decision stream looks like on the executive's end, here's an example of what it could look like. Pardon my hack graphic here, but you get the point. That if you text it, it shows up like this. It's very simple. It's very sleek. And Jeremy and his team are very intentional about making sure that, on the executive's end, it's as simple and sleek and easy as possible to digest and respond to. And then, yeah, I see you have it pulled up here too.
Yep, this is the desktop version, but I'm not going to resize my screen because I don't know if that'll screw anything up on the streaming. But it's mobile responsive, so it's going to look nice on a mobile. I predominantly respond to this on my iPhone, and most executives do. So in this case, I prepared this one because I figured someone would ask that question, and they can just, again, if you just provide them the buttons, they can click it. If you do an open response, they get a little input box that they can answer here. So let's just say done, completed, and it's answered and done, right? That's all they have to do.
Awesome.
Okay, so again, and here's the one that I just answered. That's what it looks like on your end, and by default, we have a preference that you get a notification to your email every time a decision stream is answered, but you can modify those preferences in your user settings as well. So, but you could see it automatically updates in here, so you don't have to do anything there. Now I would actually like to go backwards from here, because I know some of these things are going to trigger tasks for you as an assistant, and that is one of the reasons why this is, like, when you think about that interconnected nature, this becomes even more valuable than merely just like questions and answers. That itself is valuable, but okay, so like in this case, would you like me to enable access for this person? Yes. Right. So I'm not going to do that right now, but how do I remember to do that? Well, I push it to a task, right? I can literally push this to a task, and vice versa. So if you are using the and you can see, here's that task that we just pushed back here, right? So now I've got this, and maybe I set a due date of tomorrow, and add Liz to front and confirm, right? And you can see that similarly, it's not just a task now, it's linked back to that question, right? So maybe in the midst of this task, maybe this isn't the greatest of examples, but maybe a new question comes up, and that question is, am I approved to order another license? Right? I mean, you probably assume you know this, but maybe not, right? Like maybe this is a request from a direct report, right? Like it could have been a task that came from Slack, which I'm going to show you in a minute with Inbox, right? Like this happens to me. One of my engineers will say, hey, we need more of this, and most of the time I just say, buy it. But every once in a while, I will ask the question, like, wait, what is that? Are we sure? Is that an approved vendor? You might have those sorts of scenarios right now. And again, now you've got a direct link to this thing, right? So maybe you push this to your manager, and when they answer it, this gets tacked back to that task. So you think about that kind of knowledge repository that occurs in that life cycle of a project or a task, and all of that is tied back together. Which I know no assistant ever needed to be able to have documented proof to cover themselves. I know that has never happened, but just in case, we've got it there for you. And similarly, you can, if that were a subtask, you can just drag that down into the question. So get another license, right? Similarly, if you just drag this down into the questions, it's going to automatically draft a question for you. So again, all of these things are tied together to make it super. Again, it's built specifically for assistants and the way assistants work. Yeah. So now I want to show. Well, I'll pause there in case, Liz, there are some other questions or things before I move on to something else.
Yes, and I think you touched on some of this, but I'll pop up some of the questions here. Here's one of the questions from Facebook. Are we able to drag drop from decision stream to tasks or vice versa?
Yep, like I just showed. That's yes, yep. Exactly. Oh, and one more thing. I always forget to say this. Your executive does not have to log into anything, right? There will be at some point in the future, we will have a direct logged in executive experience, but it would be an optional thing. You can send them a digest. You can send them a decision stream. You can interface. You can give them the inbox email address, which I'm going to show you in a second. All of that does not require them to log into anything. They can interface with these artifacts without having to log in. I know that's just a general question that people have.
Yes. And we have some folks on YouTube asking about accessing the app. So when we say app, there is not a mobile app, but I think that the question was being asked because they're concerned about the executive on the receiving end. The executive doesn't have to log in via desktop, download an app, nothing. However, you send them a decision stream, the link is created, sent via email, text, Slack. They don't have to download anything.
Yes, and I'll say while we don't have a true mobile app yet, that is something that we will be building. It is on the roadmap. But everything in particular, everything that your executive touches or interfaces with is highly mobile optimized. We know that the vast majority of assistants are predominantly doing their work on a desktop. I mean, like this kind of work. I know not everything. But the inverse for the executive, right? Most executives are responding to most of these things or interfacing with them in a mobile experience. So they're all optimized for mobile. Yeah.
And we may be diving into this later, but this was another question that popped up when sending an email to task. Is there a way to show the email that goes with the question?
So that actually is a perfect segue. Let me.
There you go.
So if depending on if you're an existing user or what, we literally, I think Tuesday sent out an exciting announcement. We have had for the past several months. We've been working on something called Inbox, which has been in beta for a long time, and we've had amazing feedback from. What Inbox allows you to do is send any email or Slack message, and soon Microsoft Teams. We're still waiting on Microsoft Teams to go through the approval process. If dealing with Microsoft is fun, I love you, Microsoft, but I wish you were faster and easier to work with. So eventually Microsoft Teams. But you can push those directly to your inbox. And again, we know that many assistants end up either losing track of messages, probably not in your email, because you're likely ending up using an email sort of like a task manager because you have to, right? Not because it's a great solution, but because it's the only way to do it. And then losing track of Slack or instant messages or MS Teams, or telling those people who send you things to send you an email so you don't lose it. We've heard this multiple times, and Inbox solves for this. So the first time you come in, you're going to get welcomed and say, check out your settings to get your custom email alias. If you forward any message to this, it's going to come directly into your inbox. Similarly, if you connect up your Slack, all you have to do is literally hit the little bookmark icon, the little save button when you hover on a Slack message, and it will instantly push that into inbox. So that was, I think the question was something along the lines of, can you see the email before you push it to a task? The answer is yes. So I'm going to show you this. This is my inbox, right? So I've got emails, I've got Slacks, and I've got a Microsoft Teams message here. By default, we keep this kind of collapsed, this kind of compact view. But if you click this little density button, you're going to get a expanded view where you can see a little preview of the details. So here is the actual email. In this case, hey, we're having an issue. This thing got disconnected. Basically this is a task for me, right? So now I can select that thing and I'm going to push it to a task, right? So in this case, I'm just going to jump over there so you can get a sense for that. But you can see that we've pushed this to the task, and the full text of that email is now here in the details. I need to take care of this by Friday, so I'll set a due date so that I get a reminder, email reminder tomorrow if I don't have this done, which we do have. That was another thing. We finished up the email reminders over the holidays. So now I've got this again. So it went from some random thing in email that I either have to try and keep track of or hopefully not forget, or not get reminded about, and literally in just a couple of clicks pushed it into my task list, and now I can go about my business and not have to worry about that. So hopefully that answers the question. And again, similarly with Slack, and even more so with Slack, it's such an ephemeral communication system that, if you use reminders, the vast majority of time you miss the reminder, or you snooze it, 5 more times, and then you still end up missing it, right? Like it's just not built. It's not built for persistence really super well in my experience like that.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Any other questions on this particular part of the demo? Looking through the chat here, I think we answered them all. Scrolling through here. Jeremy, do you want to jump into Analyze? That was a hot topic yesterday.
Yeah. So yesterday, I was listening to the conversation between Paige and Jeremy, and he talked about a calendar audit, and then there was a lot of questions about how to do that. Jeremy had mentioned a method that he has for doing that, which included Zapier and a spreadsheet and some manual analysis. And I first of all, I don't want to knock that. I think the system that he has actually is really neat and is going to allow you to do super detailed and in-depth analysis. But I also know that many people aren't going to do that. They aren't going to spend the time. And also, he even said, like, I haven't spent the time to figure out a way to do this with Microsoft. And he mentioned how difficult it is to do anything in there. So in Base, down here at the bottom, we have this feature called Analyze. It works with both Google accounts and Microsoft accounts if you have those connected in Base. And I will say, it does not do everything. It is not going to give you every slice of data that you're going to want to do. So depending on how you categorize, and so in some cases it may not be able to do the type of analysis you want to do, and we're aware of this. And this is something that we're going to be. We have a really exciting feature that we're building that's going to be coming out in the first half of this year. That's going to be around calendar and scheduling. And I'm not going to go into detail because it's so exciting. We'll leave that for the future. But one of the things we'll be able to do with that is to do super granular and in-depth calendar analysis. But for now, if you don't have a solution, I recommend signing up for an account, checking out Analyze, and you can select your calendars here. So in this case, I have my calendar selected. You can select the full year date range. You just have to kind of scroll for a while because it's a full year. If that's the way that you want to do that, and I ran this just before this meeting, so I wouldn't have to wait at all. You could say I had 3,000 meetings, a lot of hours in meetings. My typical meeting length was 30 minutes. I met with 543 people, right? So we do some analysis based on what we know from what exists in the calendar data. So internal versus external. Common question is, how do we know that? It's inferred based on the emails. So assuming you're using a company email, we look and say, okay, if you met with people that were only using your internal email, then they're internal. If they're not, they're external, or other as a combination. So you can see that for me, about 60% of my meetings were internal, and 40% or so were either external or a combination of internal and external. You can look at how many attendees, the average meeting length, and recurring versus non-recurring. You can see what types of event terms end up in there, and you can get a list of people and see, like how many minutes did you spend, or how many meetings did you have with them. So again, it's going to give you some context that's going to be really difficult for you to be able to get just looking at Outlook or Gmail. So highly recommend, if you don't have a solution for this, you can sign up for Base and check out the Analyze tool down there at the bottom.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm opening up questions too, guys. If you have any questions for Jeremy, feel free to drop them in the comments, and it can be about anything. Let's go rogue here. He's really good off the cuff. So any questions you have for Jeremy on any of our product features, feel free to go ahead and put those in the comments.
While we're waiting for that, Liz, I just wanted to share one thing. I think I saw somebody ask about sending a inbox item directly to a decision stream question. And yes, you can do that. So you can do it. There's 4 different options, and you can also add to existing tasks or custom notes. So dossier is also for long-term storage. So if you wanted, like maybe this was like doctor's info or cabin info or second house or whatever, you could send that to a custom note, or you could attach to a contact. But in this case, let's send this to a question. So once you send that to a question, you can see that the subject becomes the title, and we have the full text in here in the what description portion. Excuse me, sorry, words. Now you probably don't want to send it just like this. You probably want to edit this a little bit, but again, it's all that context is there, and now I can literally just edit this a little bit and send this over to whomever. Doesn't even need to necessarily be an executive. It could be someone else that you're supporting in the midst of that. So, all right, now I'll wait for any questions because I saw that.
Yes, and I know there's like a 7 to 10 second delay, I think, on Facebook, guys. So we'll give you a couple minutes if you have some other questions coming in. But this has been great so far. Thanks. I think I wanted to look and make sure we addressed everything that was discussed yesterday in Jeremy's session. Here we go. We've had a couple questions about security, and I can send over some security info as part of follow-up. But Jeremy, was there anything particular? I don't know if it'd be specific instances.
Yeah, no, I definitely would love to address that. We built security into the foundation of Base from the get-go because understanding the types of information that that we're handling is obviously, whomever it is, it's going to be, sensitive and likely confidential information. So that's something that we've just expected from the foundations of the application. We've gone through numerous security reviews for larger organizations, have never had an issue. We're in the process of becoming SOC 2 compliant, if you're familiar with that. So happy to, basically, we have a white paper that will answer hundreds of questions because I've gone through reviews that have been 400 plus questions long. So happy to handle any of those sorts of things that may come up. But I think that you'll find that if your organization in particular is concerned about that we're going to be able to handle any of the things that you're going to come up with.
Perfect. And you guys can jeremy@basehq.com. It's his email if you need to reach out to him. Any other questions, guys, while we have Jeremy's attention? I think you did a great job, per the usual. You crushed it. Streaming star Jeremy over here.
Glad to help. Glad to answer any questions. Yeah.
We have someone asking, how long do you expect to get SOC 2 certified?
Oh, wow.
They have folks that want to join.
You're interested in the SOC 2, eh? It's not the most exciting part of the job for me, right. But so we are actually going through a type 2 audit, which is a period of time. So we will get that. We will have that attestation here in a few months because they do it over a period of time to make sure that you're following those. But we're already in compliance with all of those things. Mm-hmm. So again, and we can, especially if your organization has questions about that, happy to get them a letter from the auditors, mentioning that. So, yeah.
Awesome. And Whitney on Facebook said you rock.
Thank you, Whitney.
This is great. I also want to let you guys know too, for those of you that are new to our Base Live events, we do host weekly live events. They're all free. We usually have an influencer, someone like Jeremy Burrows. Next week, we actually have Amy Sherman, who is the EA to the president and COO at Salesforce, joining us. She is fantastic. That is one I would 100% I would recommend you go to all of them, but she's great. I saw her speak at an event virtually. I can't remember when it was, sometime in the last year. But I dropped the link to our event calendar in the chat, so that way you guys can check those out. And then if you guys like these, we'll continue to do more events with Jeremy, some other folks from our product team. Natalie, our CEO Page's EA, is going to hop in and do some more of these demos too, so we can really look at some of those learnings from our weekly based live events and show you how you can implement them using our tool. So Jeremy, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for doing this today.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to do it. And thanks everyone for the awesome questions and whatnot. And as Liz said, feel free to email me. Also, if you're in the app, there's a little chat bubble down the bottom left-hand corner. We love to hear your feedback, questions, anything. Don't hesitate to reach out.
Awesome. Well, then I will make sure to consolidate all the learnings from today and send it in our follow-up email and some other resources that might be helpful as well. I encourage you guys, get into the app.basehq.com. It is free to sign up. Check it out, try out Decision Stream. And per Jeremy, we really love to see the different use cases and unique ways of how you guys are using it. It's really exciting to see how you guys kind of, you make it work for what your workflow is. That's the goal. And yeah, thank you again, Jeremy. This was awesome.
Thanks all. Happy Thursday.